Well, it's the eve of Christmas Eve, and make no mistake about it, dear viewers, that's not going to stop me from posting content. So I thought I'd bring you a special Christmas video of this ornament that I made for my parents using the ever popular Water Clear 786 and of course the also ever popular TC5130F Platinum Silicone. And as the alert and astute viewer will notice, I'm wearing a special Christmas sweater commissioned by my lovely wife, Mrs. Biddy Productions. And as you will see, it bears the stern visages of all my cats. So thanks for watching. I hope you all have had a great productive year, and hopefully you also enjoy this tutorial. And hopefully you get some well-deserved time off to spend with your families. So hope you enjoy the video. Now for this sculpture I used Protolina Gray Green. So this is my little cat sculpture that I made to mold for this. And ultimately I'm going to be casting this in the Water Clear 786. So I want a fairly stylized shape here. And I am by no means a sculptor, so this is my attempt at rendering one of my cats in clay. And this is Protolina Gray Green clay. So Protolina Gray Green, this is a sulfur-free modeling clay and very easy to mold. It doesn't require even a sealer for most applications. So as you'll see later in the video, when I mold this, all I'm going to do to it as far as prep is just spray it with the Zip 301 mold release. And that's really helpful if you're going to be reusing your clay, because then you don't have to worry about a clear sealer stuck to the clay. Now, once I've got my sculpture ready to go, I'm ready to put it on a piece of foam core board, as is tradition here in my shop. And then I'm going to put that little 3-inch mold tube around it. And then, of course, I'm going to seal that whole arrangement with some hot glue around the outside of that tube. And real important that clay cat is just pressed onto that foam core board. But if you are molding something that is lower density than the silicone, it's a good idea to anchor that with super glue or hot glue or even wood screws to make sure it doesn't try to float during the mold making process. Now I'm going to release my little cat in the inside of that tube with Zip 301 spray release. Real important here, Zip 301 is compatible with silicone. Real important that it does not contain silicone oil, because that can mess up your mold later on and even cause the silicone to stick to your pattern. Now what I'm doing here is marking where the seam will be. This is going to be a little cut block mold, so I want to make sure I know where I'm going to cut open that mold later on. And since that's all going to be covered in silicone, even though it's translucent, I want to make sure I know exactly where to put that cut later on, so I don't have to go fishing for it with an X-Acto knife later. Now I'm going to use the rest of this 5130F Platinum Silicone kit. This was thankfully exactly enough to make my mold. So this took right around a pound of silicone, so about 8 ounces of part A and 8 ounces of part B. And this particular silicone, the TC5130F, this is a fast setting platinum silicone that's mixed 1-to-1 by weight or volume. So we have about 7 to 8 minutes working time at room temperature, and then about an hour to an hour and a half demold time also at room temperature. Now, very important to remember, obviously this is Christmas time and it's cooler weather, so remember that platinum silicone is very temperature sensitive. So when you drop below about 65 degrees, that's going to start to interfere with the curing of your platinum silicone. So always a good idea to make sure you're working in an environment that's at least 70 to 75 degrees for best results. Now once we've got that mixed up, I didn't show it here, but I vacuum degassed that batch of silicone, and now I'm ready to pour that over my released model. And again, we have a 7 to 8 minute working time and an hour to hour and a half demold. So more than enough time to pull a vacuum on that and get that poured over our model. Now on the end screen, I'll post some links to some other relevant videos like the vacuum degassing tutorial, so be sure to check those out, especially if you're just getting started with molding and casting. Now, one of the nice things about 5130, because it is really fast, it allows for quick turnaround time like this, so you could easily make a mold and start casting within a couple of hours. And unlike tin cure silicone, platinum silicone, accelerated platinum silicones like this, that does not affect the life of the mold. So real important to remember if you're new to working with platinum silicones. And now I'm just cutting open the mold, and I'm using that little zipper cut, that S-shaped cut. down that side, and as I get closer to the model, I'm cutting straight. And that results in that kind of a funnel shape if you were to look at it in cross-section. And now ready to remove the clay from the mold. And it left a little bit of a residue, and I don't show it in this video, but I cast up a TC802 copy from the mold just to clean it out really quick. And now ready to cast our clear resin. Now I warmed up the mold. It's sitting over in a hot box while I'm mixing up the water clear resin, and I warmed the mold up to about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's warm enough to help that resin flow into the details of the mold and also help that water clear resin cure in really thin sections. Now WC 786 or water clear 786 is mixed 1:1 by volume or 100A to 96B by weight. And I'm going to be using the weight ratio for this because I'm working with a fairly small batch, and weight is always going to be more precise than volume. Now I'm adding 1 drop of 7405 blue dye. And the reason for that is I wanted this to have kind of a cool wintry look, so that gives that final clear resin a little bit of a blue tint to it, so it looks a little bit more like glass. And once I get that mixed in, I'm ready to pour that in my warm mold. And also important to remember that you want to work in a warm shop. And I'm even going to put this in a warm area by a space heater while it cures completely, because water clear resin or aliphatic resins like this, they really like a warm environment in which to cure. Now this is about an hour later, and it's important to note that Water Clear 786 comes in several different set times. This is the fastest of all the set times. This is about a 5-minute working time and about a 45 minutes to an hour demold. And again, real important to make sure you're working in a warm environment. Much like platinum silicones, aliphatic clear resins really like warm temperatures, and especially in the thin cross-section, having a warm mold will really help those areas cure uniformly. Now you'll notice my little cat has a little bit of a matte finish because it was molded from a clay sculpture. So to get that high gloss, we're going to spray it with some high gloss clear. And the neat thing about this is one of those little tricks I learned from Troy over at BJB, is we can hit it with that high gloss clear, and that gives it that clear look all the way through, gives it more of that high gloss clear that you expect from something that looks like it's made of glass. So I'm going to hit it with a couple of coats of that, and you see now our little kitty cat looks more like it's made of clear blue glass. Now once that's dried, I'm ready to embed this in a little puddle of more Water Clear 786 with some white dye added. And this is just to have a little bit of a base, since I'm going to be putting this in a little prefab ornament, a little plastic ornament that has a little cutout in it. And that will level out the base and give the cat something on which to sit. So here I'm just transferring that over to a Dixie cup so it'll be a little easier to pour. These are some little blank ornaments that I picked up at a local hobby store. And I'm just going to pour that puddle at the base of each one of those. And then, while that's still liquid, embed my little cat in the puddle of resin. Now, those of you cat owners out there will realize it looks like the cat either had a small accident in the ornament or made a mess, as cats are wont to do. So either way, I find that to be fairly realistic, what's going on in the ornament there. Now, once I've got the little cats placed, I'm ready to let that set up, and my ornaments are all done. So all told, this whole project took about 4 or 5 hours out of a day. So pretty quick turnaround time, and it was all using leftover material I had around my shop. So I got, I think, pretty nice results, some nice little classy looking ornaments, and now they're ready to hang on a Christmas tree. Now, for those of you just discovering the channel and just discovering some of the molding and casting greatness that you can do with these kinds of materials, be sure to check the end screen. I'll put some resources for those of you just starting out, the video on vacuum degassing, as well as some other molding and casting videos you might find helpful. So there you go. There's my little water clear cat ornament. And I hope you have all had a great, productive year. Hope you all have a great new year, and I hope you have a great holiday with your family and friends. And of course, thanks for supporting the channel, and thanks for watching.